Friends, today let us see what Vedanta talks about Antahkarana. Antahkarana is what we generally refer to as the human mind. It may be human mind or any mind, let us say mind. This is one subject which is under serious, exploration by physics and by biology. All the biological research and most of the research in physics and chemistry, all these things, they are having a coordinated, endeavor to see or to understand what this human mind is, and there is no finality on this subject. And let us see what type of insight Vedanta provides to us in understanding the human mind. Because Vedanta is one, a very unique thing which does not only talk about religion. It talks about religion, no doubt. It talks about religion and puts it at a lower space, a lower place. And then beyond religion it goes, and then it tries to know, it tries to understand, analyze human nature. What is the human nature, this sattva, rajas, tama, all these gunas it analyzes. Then it tries to see what exactly is creation and what is this jiva who is having an antahkarana, and what exactly is this antahkarana, the human mind, and how is it organically related to the whole cosmos. So in that manner it analyzes and then it gives certain insights into this thing. So we know that in Vedanta, the Supreme Brahman or the Supreme Reality as we call it, it has nothing to do with creation. Because if Supreme Brahman were to be another creator, then there will be so many questions about where is the Upadana Karana, what is the material from which he has created. Then if he has taken out some external material from him, then he will be a limited being. So all types of questions they come. So it has to be ruled out that the Supreme Brahman is something which cannot be bogged down with this things like creation of this world and then functioning as a sort of super boss for this universe and whatnot. So once that is ruled out, then what is it that we have seen? In Vedanta we have seen there is a postulation of a power in that Supreme Brahman called Maya. The power which is again undefinable, something which is indefinable. It projects certain things. This Maya Parinama, this Maya, this Shakti is something which is in that Supreme, the Brahman. That Supreme Brahman is just nothing but Sat, Chit and that existence, knowledge and all pervading Ananta. Satyam Jnanam Anantam, that is the meaning of that Brahman which we have seen in another episode. So that Supreme Brahman has nothing to do with this, this supervision of the world, etc. So this Maya is there from where there is a projection of this whole cosmos as we see now. And this Maya, according to Vedanta, has three particular tendencies or three constituents, sometimes we can call it. They are called the gunas. Guna, not exactly quality. There are certain constituents like Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna and Tamo Guna, which we have seen in another class. So this Sattva Guna, these three gunas, a combination of these three gunas creates the whole universe. So the whole diversity of this, in this what we find in this universe, is because of the combination of these three gunas in different proportions. And the same is seen right from a blade of grass right up to all these cosmic bodies which we see, you see the sun, you see the moon, you see galaxies, you see whatever you see, the whole space or the whole galaxies. What all we see, it is all pervaded by that Chaitanyam or consciousness. So that is, but then all these things, they appear. And then in reality, whether they really are there or not, we do not know. Maya is a sort of medium which is making that consciousness appear as matter. A consciousness which is supreme thing, it is appearing as some matter, it is appearing as the universe, it is appearing as something which is a drushya or something which is a seen. So that is the thing Maya. And Maya, again we will see in some other class, it is not defined properly. Not defined properly in the sense it is defined as something which is undefinable. So that is it. So anyway, we will not go into that now. Then if we see this, if we come to this, confine ourselves to this Antahkarana, we see that this Maya has three constituents, and then from these constituents only this broadly what we call five elements, Pancha Bhutas. So the five Bhutas, Prithvi, Apaha, Teja, these five Bhutas have emerged. That is earth. All earth means not only this earth but all types of earth. Prithvi, Apaha, this water. Teja, this fire, or fire and light also. Vayu, this air, and also the space, Akasha. All these things, they have emerged from this Maya. So these are the things. And then these things, whatever emerges from Maya, they also have a combination of this Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, Tamo Guna, etc. This Sattva Guna is something we have seen that is something, say, a more subtle thing. In these three gunas, the more subtle thing is Sattva Guna. Rajo Guna is something more manifest. Tamo Guna is slightly more, in a much more way it manifests. So this Sattva Guna of, say, one element, Sattva Guna of, say, Bhumi, it is responsible for the creation of one particular sense in the human body. Not only human body, any body. Sattva Guna of this Bhumi means earth, is responsible for the creation of this sense of smell in an animal, in any living being. Similarly, the light which is there in the external world, that is responsible for creation of the light, or Teja as we call it, that is responsible for the creation of this sense of seeing, sense of sight. Then Vayu in the sky or anywhere outside, that is responsible for the creation of the sense of touch. Then Prithvi, Apaha, Tejaha. Apaha means water. Waters are responsible for the creation of the sense of taste. So like that, we have got these five senses. These five senses are corresponding to the five elements which we see outside. The space is something which is responsible for the creation of the sense of hearing. So like that, all these five senses, that is Shabda, Sparsha, Rupa, Rasa, Gandha, these five say things which we perceive through five senses, they are the result of the functioning of these five elements which are there in the universe. In the universe, we see these five elements, and the Sattva Guna, and in all these five elements also there is Sattva Guna, Rajo Guna, Tamo Guna. The Sattva component of each Bhuta, the Sattva component of earth, fire, water, etc., they are responsible for the creation of the senses, because senses are supposed to be subtle. And then what about the mind? Whatever impressions we get through the senses are received in the mind, they are processed in the mind. Then mind also again is a jadam, mind again is insentient according to our Vedanta. Of course, logicians say that mind is not insentient, mind is a place where intelligence generates. But Vedanta says mind is not a thing where mind itself is a drushya, mind itself can be seen. So mind is a jada. Then how is this mind produced? Mind is produced by the collective sattva component of all the five elements. Each of the five elements, they are responsible for each of the five senses. Then collectively the sattva component of all these five elements, that is responsible for the creation of the mind, or Antahkarana. That is because the mind is able to see, the mind is able to feel the touch, the mind is able to see this, have the smell, the mind is able to taste, know the taste, the mind is able to know the taste, know the smell, know all these five senses, whatever these senses are producing, it is able to assimilate, it is able to process and put it in a proper form. So mind is said to be the product of the sattva component of all the five elements. So that is the picture here. Then in the mind itself, the Vedanta says there are four different levels, that is Manaha, Buddhi, Ahankara and Chittam. So these are four levels which are discussed in Vedanta. Manas is a stage, a very preliminary stage where the impressions are brought by the senses and then which are there on the mind. That is a preliminary level where the sensory impressions are formed in the mind, but mind has not yet decided as to what it is. Mind has not yet decided as to whether something is good or bad, whether something is to your liking or not, but it is an impression. That is a perception level. Then Buddhi is the next stage where the mind decides, yes, this is that, this is a particular object, This I like, this I do not like. So this something, Sankalpa Vikalpatmakam is the first one. Nishchayatmika Buddhi, that is the decisive thing is Buddhi. Then there is another, the next level is, yes, I cognize this. There is an impression first, and then the mind analyzes this, and then what is my reaction to that? I cognize this, I like it, I. Whenever that feeling of I is the third level, that is aham. That is manaha, buddhi and aham. Then after all this, we again at some point of time, you keep on contemplating on all these things. All these whatever impressions which you get, they also form some impressions in the mind. There are certain latent impressions. All these latent impressions are so accumulated right from the time of birth. And our Vedanta says they are not only latent impressions of this birth, there are also latent impressions of previous births called vasanas. Vasana are some predisposition which is there right from the previous births, and that is how there is some element of some little bit of determinism. Determinism and free will, of course, we have discussed elsewhere. There is free will for a person to regarding the choice, regarding the what karma he has to choose. But some element of predetermination is there because of these vasanas. These vasanas try to direct you in a particular way. Then the Shastra and Acharya, they will tell you what is the right, and the individual has got all the freedom. That's a different subject. We will not go into that. So this mind is analyzed in 4 different levels. That is manas, buddhi, ahankara and chitta. Then another thing which Vedanta tells is the whole Antahkarana is what is called the subtle body. The human mind is the human body, as we see, is the gross body. Then the subtle body is the life force, the prana, the energy level, and also this intellect level. Intellect level is this mind and in 3-4 whatever is the mind and the senses, say let us say, mind, the senses complex, let us say. So these things, they form the subtle body. It is this subtle body which transmigrates when a human being dies, or any animal dies, any living being dies. It is this subtle body which transmigrates and takes up birth depending on the, say, karma. So as opposed to this Sthula Sharira, this is this Sukshma Sharira. And another point is, this Sukshma Sharira also is made of this Sattva, Rajas, Tamo Gunas only. The Sattva component is there, but all said and done, there is nothing as pure Sattva and pure Rajas and pure Tamas. There is a mixture of all these things. So that is why this Antahkarana is also susceptible to this Raga Dvesha. This Antahkarana, if it were to be totally pure Sattva, it will not attract this Raga Dvesha. Because it is not pure Sattva, maybe 99% Sattva. There is nothing, the Gita says, there is nothing anywhere which is untouched by all this, the combination of these 3 gunas. So because it is having some this tendency or susceptibility to get attracted to things, so you like a thing, you don't like a thing. So these are this Raga and Dvesha, they are there because all these senses, this element, they are corresponding to the 5 elements. These 5 elements, there is an organic relationship between the 5 elements and also these 5 senses. So that is why these senses, they are, they go towards the sense objects. They move towards the sense objects. So that is the picture here. Then secondly, if we say, then this human mind is this, it is the product of all this sattva, the collective sattva amsha of all these 5 elements. Then this individual component of sattva component of each thing is responsible for each sense. Then who am I? Ultimately the question is, what is it that we call I? Who am I? Then that is what Vedanta says, Mano Buddhi Ahankara Chittani Naham. I am beyond all these things. I am beyond mind, manaha, buddhi, ahankara and chitta. I am beyond all these things. At this point, you have this, methodology of druk drushya viveka. That is, whatever is seen as a drushyam is not you. I see this pen, so which means it is not me. I can see my indriya, I can see my sense, it is not me. Likewise, I can see my mind. The yogis, that is what they practice. Yogaha chitta vritti nirodha. That is, they practice seeing the mind. All the thought process. Mind is what? Mind is a collection of vrittis. Vritti is a thought process which moves in the mind. So he keeps on watching. He keeps on watching the mind. So the mind is there. So, and according to Vedanta, Antahkaranam is something which is, it is such a very subtle thing. It is, Vedanta Paribhasha says, Atyacha Virala Taijasa Dravyam Manaha. It is a very rare, very subtle thing which is capable of receiving that Paramatma, that reflection of Paramatma, which is capable of receiving that, that supreme consciousness, that is what is illumining this Antahkarana. And that because of that illumination, you are able to see all this. So that is the nature of Antahkarana. When you say, when you reject or when you say negate that Manas is not me, Buddhi is not me, then what else are you? You are that Chidabhasa. You are that reflection of that supreme consciousness. And this Antahkarana is a reflecting medium which is able to take that supreme consciousness and then project various things. So this is the picture. Then ultimately, when you say that, the whole Antahkarana is a product of Maya, and then all the things which you see are also products of Maya, then what is the reality of what all we see? Then reality of what all we see is also affected by the same thing. Whatever you see, this Indriyajanya Jnanam, that is whatever you see through these Indriyas and mind, that again is not a Swarupa Jnana. It is not the Swarupa, it is not the reality. So that is where we are. So what we see as reality, is it reality or not? That is the question mark which continues in Vedanta. So because all these things are product of Maya and all in the realm of ignorance, all in the realm of Ajnana. So, therefore, the Vedanta says you come beyond these Indriyas, you come beyond these senses and try to know the reality, try to know the consciousness which is the illuminer of all these things. So, ultimately, that is what Vedanta says. And of course, there is a more subtle discussion on this in advanced texts like Vedanta Paribhasha. Of course, we cannot go into this because it is a basically preliminary introduction to what Vedanta says about the human mind. Thank you.